Hello. I thought I'd actually say hello tonight because sometimes I'm you can't see me at all. So I thought I'd come and say hello and enjoy this one. It is a nice one. I know it looks a bit difficult and challenge. There is some challenge there, but it's really quite a lovely one once we get into it. So have no fear, it will be fine. Right, I'm just going to switch over. So I thought we'd have a little go at some figurative work today. And actually, it's really lovely to have a go at something and just try tonight to work a little bit. Just put my screen back on a little bit more loosely if you can. So it really is a great, a good subject when we're doing figures because it is quite like our lines are quite, quite have a quite more continuous lines in the figure. With and even clothing, you have like lots of sweeps of nice fabric and things like that. Excuse me. So it's a really good opportunity to really make it just a little bit more loose. And if you want to try just to start with to loosen up even more, then what you can do, I'm just going to do a very quick charcoal sketch to start with. Just find some paper. I'm going to pop this orange one on here. It doesn't really matter what colour you do the thing on. Now, obviously, the bigger you go, the bigger your lines can be, and the kind of looseness there. But I'm restricting myself a little bit because of the camera. So this is just you can literally do before you do any kind of figurative work. Just and you can do this with still life or all sorts of subjects as well. It's just do like a nice little sketch where you're not thinking too much about it and we're not going to kind of like use it like a pencil and do these tiny thick small lines because that's quite restrictive. What we want to do is get some flow into there and get our hand loosening up a little bit. And this, if we do like a little preliminary sketch, you don't even need to keep them. You can just really just kind of get you thinking about positioning everything. So when I'm doing this, I'm like looking at here, and I don't want this to really be any more than 3 or 4 minutes when I'm doing it. But what will happen is we kind of iron out some of the issues we might have about position and things when we do the sketch. So when we come to do the next bit and do the pastel work, it works really well. So I've just got a bit of willow stick charcoal because that's my favourite, if I'm honest. You can get obviously the pencils and everything, but I quite nice and loose. So when I'm looking at this, there is a general, obviously we need to have some idea of whereabouts it is, but with this sketch, it is us just having a go and seeing if where we can get it. So I'm looking at this on within the composition here. If we look at that, that's kind of where halfway mark is down the middle here. And this is kind of going over, isn't it? Over the halfway. So, maybe her hat comes to just about where halfway is, but then the arms extended, etc. And also it takes up quite a big proportion of this area over here. So we can be thinking about that when we start to sketch, and then we can be free to do a little bit with this charcoal. And also, charcoal is great because it's very loose and very soft, and we can really kind of get lots of marks on there. So what I might be doing, even though I'm thinking about getting the looseness of it, I'm moving my hand around because this is what I do when I'm working loosely, is starting to think about, you might want a few little marks just to think whereabouts everything goes. So, I'm kind of like looking at like where the shoulder might be, where the dress thing might start be. So I'm putting a couple of marks in and then I'm just going to go for it. I might be thinking about where the hat might come out to up here. Let's have a look where the elbow might kind of come down and out. And then I've got a few ideas of whereabouts I'm going to pop things, and then we'll, as we go on to the next bit, we can do a little bit more. So I'm going to come down right from this position here, so we've kind of got some flow. There we go. So I'm going to pop in a little bit of this here. We're getting this lovely flowing fabric in there, and again, it's quite quick, not really doing too much, got the fabric flowing underneath, and then I can start to think, where's the arm coming from here? Start to get these lovely lines in and just try not to take my hand off too much off the charcoal. I come down this side now as well. It's all kind of a bit in the dark there, isn't it? But we get these like really lovely kinds of folds in the arm. And I'm not going into any detail with fingers, etc. at this point. I'm just getting a sense, because what we want really when we're doing this is we just want a sense of what's going on, what's happening in this composition. We've got the artist at work. What we really try and capture today, in amongst like using some techniques and things, is the fact that this is an artist connecting with her artwork or his artwork. So, you know, I'm kind of keeping this moving now. You keep popping, like now I've got her in there once. So, you know, it will be very sketchy looking. Following on where her back is in the skirt, etc. And then underneath the arms, we've got that skirt coming down here, her dress. Maybe this is a bit billowy out here, a bit more. And then we've got this dress coming down the front here. It's coming up there. I'm moving, I'm not moving really, really fast, but I'm moving fairly quickly. So I'm getting this continuous, lovely line here. Then there's top of a top here. Got all these kind of billowy, lovely sash or a bow or something like that. And then obviously we've got this bit obscured by a hair. So I'm going to go in with the hat here. Let's get this. The hair's coming out the back. I've got this hat. And then again, I want to kind of keep that moving. Get this hat in. And then again, we're getting this lovely movement here with the hat, covering over her face. We want to really thinking about, you know, how she's looking at the work, how she's really focused, because it's the focus when we're an artist, isn't it? That just really, really special. We want to capture that. So I've got a bit of hair coming down here. So this is where I'm using these gestural lines to kind of get the sense that, you know, they're a bit bolder and bigger, you know, what's going on without going into massive, massive detail. So already we've, you know, she's positioned that way. We're kind of not going, you know, paying too much attention. So I want to get face in now. I need this focus. So I'm just, what I am looking at is just kind of a position of a nose. The fact that we can't see masses at the moment, but we've got just a kind of a profile there of really looking forwards. Can't actually see her eyes or anything anyway, can we? You know, while this is going on. So I'm happy with that there for the moment. You know, obviously we've got some shadow, a bit of shadow in there if you want to the face where it's darker. And then I need to think about, like, now this is the really important bit as well, is her actually doing her focusing and really connecting with the art. So again, I'm just going to bring, maybe these come down a bit, just kind of bring, I'm trying to keep that line continuous. And it's kind of sweeping round is the arm. Same under here, just a few minutes of this, and just getting the position. It kind of comes out and round, and then the hand comes back in. Not going to be perfect, but we're just getting some gestural lines to know that she's holding something. Move this down a bit. There, and then we've got paintbrush. Okay, so you can just pop a few more finger bits in if you want to, but again, I'm not. I just really want to kind of capture the fact that she's got something in her hand there. Just even just showing like the center of the hand is okay. There we go. And so there's not a lot going on, you know, there's an awful lot we could do, but what we're trying to do is just get those first hints of where, you know, where things are, and just keep that moving, keep that movement in there, because it's lovely when you get the artist movement. When you think about some of those beautiful pastel drawings that we've done before, or some of us have done with, you know, ballerinas and things on, just like a lot of the French artists do capture the, like Manet and Cézanne, I think, where it's quick. They're getting quick. What they were doing was getting those quick sketches, really, of everything that was happening before, you know, people moved, weren't they? Really. So, and I know our subject isn't moving, but we can still get that lovely free effect. So that's it really. That now I know like when you've done your first one, what you can, first kind of take on it, what you can do is then think, right, what would I do differently next time? And I'm obviously looking at the position of my hand is coming a bit too far back, so it needs to be a bit further up, etc. So then we can really work on the other bits. So I'm going to put that aside now, move my charcoal because I don't need that. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to tackle this in a similar way. So I'm going to try and keep that free movement. Now because we're going on in pastel, if you want to work just a couple of shades darker, then if you're not too happy with something, you can just kind of rub it off and just keep it nice and light. Obviously mine's going to be a bit darker as it always is, just so that you can see some of those lines that I've put in. Might be bearing in mind to use, something that's a warm tone if you've got skin and things like that. So which one shall I go for? I think I'm just going to use, yeah, there'll be a bit of a contrast there. Let's look if there's another. Let me see. I'll go in with this taupey one, I think, as long as it might not be dark enough for you to see. Actually, I'll go for one slightly darker so you can see it. Let me see that one up there. Okay. Right. So same thing again. I'm just kind of like looking at the positioning, where we are. So I'm gonna do the same again. I'm gonna make sure, I'm just gonna pop a little bit of where a sleeve is, make sure I've got enough space for the hat. Yes, I have. Happy with that. So I'm gonna come in again, with this lovely bit of dress. We can add on and change these things as well. But again, I want to keep it moving. I don't want to get too, because we want to capture the whole thing together. Capture this lovely this lovely composition with this artist at work in full flow, which is just beautiful. We know it is. Because it's so special to be in that space that we're in. Right. There we go. So again, I'm just going to kind of do what we've just done. Keep this moving. We can go over these. We know this as well with pastel. So if you're not happy with what you've done, we can go over. Don't worry too much. Don't get caught up on it. Just keep it moving. But we'll do predominantly a lot of this work anyway with our pastel colours to create the shape and everything. So don't worry if it's not exactly as you want. So I've got this lovely sleeve here. And again, I'm going to come back to the hand in a minute. I'm just coming down this side. This bit of the there we go, this bit here, where the back is, there we are, going around. Sometimes it helps to get these bits in. It's almost like positioning herself, like you were playing a sport like badminton or hockey or something, you'd be, getting into position, getting ready. She's doing that, isn't she? She's in full focus there, which is really nice. So okay, so then we've got, I'm gonna get the rest of her top coming round here, keeping it moving again. So we've got the top here, and then we've got sort of the billowy sash. We know that's part of it coming down. So all these little details we can pop on after, but it's just nice to keep some movement there. Okay, and then again, I'm going to do exactly the same again. I'm just going to pop this little hand in. So when you start to do the hand, I don't pop any details of the real detail of the finger in until I get to that stage. And there's a good reason for that, because often we kind of, as we're going on things in more detail, even if we are moving quickly, we do look a bit more carefully. So I loved it drawing, paint, doing hands. It's one of my favorite topics. But this is just the way I approach it. Just want, because it's gestural, we want like to capture things like the position, the focus, the intent, the and and then, you know, some of the items on there as well. But we really want to capture the light as well in that studio. It is very bright in there. It's really nice. That's why I'm working on a light colour today. Background, which I don't normally do in a pastel actually. Often we use quite coloured backgrounds. So there we go. So that's as much as the hands are going to get it for me for the time being until we move a little bit further on. I'm going to come ahead now with the hat. Yeah. Again, keeping it moving, not getting too caught up. If I was drawing with a pencil, I might be much more, kind of bit more reticent to kind of go for it. So that's why I'm saying just switch over. We tend to do that in this anyway, don't we? There we go. Get that nice sweep of the hat in there. Now, if you're not sure about any angles, you can always just check, hold it at a similar angle and see, is that okay? You don't need any fancy equipment for that, to be fair. We just can look and move. And then again, I'm just going to make sure I've got the hair coming in the right place when I pop it in. It's way over here, doesn't it? And it hangs forwards, just so I've got an idea of where I'm putting the marks. And there's a little bit around the neck here as well. Comes over the back. It's all the way down, actually, doesn't it? That far. There we go. So we've got a lot going on there, haven't we? And then obviously the face. So, again, you just look in, you know, you can look at her angle of her nose, that kind of thing. Now I'm doing this in pastel, but if you find it, you've got a bit more control doing it in pastel pencil, that's absolutely fine. Obviously we can adjust the hair as well. Okay. I'm working this time on pastel mat. Coming out a little bit far, so I'm just going to get a bit of damp tissue off me. So with pastel mat, you can, you know, if it's pastel paper, you can just brush it off. But this sticks a little bit more. Maybe it's not quite wet enough. Let's get a bit on there. In a minute. There we go. And we'll go because I think I'm in much smaller area than I was before. I'll wait till that dries for a minute. There we go. I'll go into that in a bit more detail when it's dried off a little bit. There we go. It's a bit more focused now. I'll change that with some of the colours anyway. Right, so carry on. Popping some leaves on. So we've got a bit of hair coming down that side as well, haven't we? Behind her face as well. And then we've got the arm that's kind of extending out, just down, starts a bit further down, doesn't it, in the face there. Again, it's nice, fun to do in some of these areas. Just keep looking at where it goes to. Let's have a look. Again, back a little bit. And then you want to get the angle. So there's a bit of an angle here, isn't there? We'll still keep it nice and soft, and we'll still change it a little bit as we go, as I said before. We tend to do that. We've just got the bangle on, and we'll put the bangle on after. And then bring that hand up. So it's a bit straighter than I've had it before. I've got some suggestion here. About the which will change in a little bit. And then just pop that in so we can see the brush. So I know we're in the general, right general direction with that. It's a bit thicker, but we'll sort that as we go. That's just the first step, really. And now, obviously, if you want to pop, if you're wanting to really focus and pop in the background in and everything, we can do that. So I'm leaving, the unfinished details on purpose so that hopefully it will help people not become too concerned with how things look initially, and let us just work into it, because sometimes we get a bit too bogged down with the drawing side of it, and with the pastel we can just we can pop those details in as we go with our darks and lights and things. So one of the things, you can start to pop a bit of background in if you want to. I'm not actually going to do that for the moment because I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with this bit of background up here, whether I put one person in or two, or just kind of don't really leave it plain. I want to see how this pans out at the front here. So we'll just that one there. Okay. So what I'm going to think about, and what everybody will need to think about for this, I've just got a bit of paper I can do for testing the colours, because we're going to need to think about the skin tone. Once we've got everything in line, we've got kind of things where we generally want them, then we can really start to focus in on the important bits, like, the bits of the arm that are in the shadow, what kind of mid-tones for the skin we're going to put on. And with skin, and it doesn't, depending on the color of the individual skin tone as well, what we'll see is quite a lot of real variation, actually, and also not just variation in everybody's so individual, aren't they, but also the fact that in a different studio, room, etc., all the colours may be slightly different on that one person. So what I'm going to observe here is, which bits are in the shadow, so I'm going to get those in first and sealed in. Now, when I worked on A3, or if I did on A4, I'd be working straight and passive, but I'm on such a tiny piece, I'm going to try and do this a little bit, because it's really scaled down with my pencils today a bit more. And pop in some of the other details if I've got more space with the pastel. But we pop in, just test this little colour sheet here, slide that up. I'm looking for a shadow colour for the dark area, because obviously there's a lot of shadow here. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to get my shadow, but I'm going to focus primarily on the skin tone to start with, so that I get those bits in, so that then I can have the fold of the clothes coming over the top, etc. So I'm going to have a little look, and this is what I said, we will start to, even if you haven't to start with, start to pop in some of these, which will make more sense. So, around the arm, for example, in the shadow, this side of her, if you start to look at the light source, which is what we want to catch as well, is coming from the back. I think, if I'm looking at this, and I don't know if you think the same, it's shining onto the wall. So she's been able to paint onto the wall. So, it's lighting the space behind her to get straight onto the wall, so she can see what she's doing. So because we see the back of the arm here, some bits on the front here, the upper back is all in the light, so is the back of the hat. And then we just have a little bit catching around this side that's coming kind of down this side of her as well. So so what we can do is we can fix in those shadows. So I'm looking where I can see them. I'm looking on the arm. Now you still can be loose with the pencils as well, so don't worry about that. Just going to keep it moving if you can a little bit. So now changing the shape a little bit of the arm as I go. No. And then I'm trying to get in underneath these shadows underneath here, which is just really lovely to do. You know, you may end up with two shadowy colours. Like over here isn't quite as dark, is it, as underneath? So you may need one for there. And it will, if you're working on light paper, it is going to really stand out, but it will all soften down. So don't worry about that once we start to get those other details in. So tummy here is darker as well underneath there. So I'm going to capture just behind here. I'm going to move this up a little bit because I can see now this needs to come a bit further down here. Because what we're getting under here is this shadow underneath on her back there. There we go. So I'm looking again now. What else can I see? Are there any other dark patches? These seem to be the dark ones there. What's going on? That's there. We have got, you know, quite dark on this bit of the arm, isn't it, on the inside? So this will start to give us, you know, a sense of depth as well. When we put the other colours on, there'll be a contrast, and then that will feel like it's going backwards a little bit into the shadow. So just put a little bit more detail on the hands now, but only where I can see the shadows. By the way, I'm not going to do that bit until near the end of this area. But I am getting the shadows on underneath the hand. And then between the fingers as well, so that's quite helpful. What you might see are, you know, some shadows on the inside of the finger. So if you focus on those shadows as opposed to trying to draw as such, that's the main, that's how you'll get the shape anyway. So there's shadow between this one finger here. So again, you just about see the thumb coming behind there. Okay, so we're starting to, you know, just by popping a few shadows between fingers, etc., we're starting to see a little bit more take shape, but there's still things to do on there. It's quite dark, but not the darkest. This one's in the light. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to any other areas that you see. So this, obviously this area here, behind her blouse, I think I might need to just pop in a few details there. You can hear the rain coming down on my studio. It smells really lovely. Right, so here, so what I'm looking at here is where her top comes in here. And then there's quite dark shadow underneath the top. Here. White dark shadow underneath where the skin tone is here. It's really in the shadow, isn't it, actually? And you see how, you know, the colour of her arm, much darker. Down the pot where the darkest shadow is coming. And then I'll put some other tones in there as well. And then again over this side, so I might need to move this over, just this tape actually, so I can get the drawing underneath it. There's also, you know, a little bit here, but actually it's not very dark under there because we don't have much shadow cast, not really, maybe underneath this little skirt. And just there, perhaps, but too much. A little bit here behind the wall, and that comes from there. Okay, and then I'll come to the face as well. I'm going to carry on this arm. So again, so we're looking, the darkest area is definitely between her arm, isn't it, here, you know, in the crease, which is what you'd expect. You'd expect that to be quite dark there. You know, you can fix it in with your finger, or you can use a blending stick. Even use like the earbuds or something as well if you want to fix it in that way. I'm not doing that. You won't see me do that as much, fixing it in on here, because I'm using the pastel matte, which you know, it's quite fixes in itself quite a bit. Okay, so under here again, we've got some bit of a shadow, not quite as dark as here, so I'm going to put that in quite lightly there. There is some, but not totally. And then I'm looking at here where this is. Arms coming out a little bit there. Now then, what I am looking at is where this hand is going. So we've got this bit of the wrist here. And there's quite a lot of shadow on this hand, isn't there? You see it now. So I'm just moving everything up a little bit. This is what I was saying, you know, when you really focus on it, you start popping those darks a little bit differently. So I'm also going to see this arm come up here, but this arm does not have a lot of shadow on the top, because that is where we're catching, where the light catches up. So we're not overly focusing on that. But we do get a sweep of dark down here. So I'm just going to very lightly pop that on. I've got other colours to put on yet anyway, so I'm just fixing this dark into place where I can. And again here, I've got some darker down this middle section of our arm here, towards the centre. And a little bit underneath. So, let's put this in. So again, what am I doing here? Well, I am just popping in where those dark areas are under the fingers, etc. And then over here, a swoop of this hand going up like that. So I'm going to get this finger in here. And part of her thumb as well. You can see there. And then centrally down here, we've got this very dark area. And finger coming up here, but it's between the finger, and that's what I want you to see. So yes, we've got a fingernail there, but between these two fingers here, it's very shadowy, and that creates the shape of the fingers actually. You know, and the shadow between there again, now between the hand and the fingers. This one is in the light. We can get that in. It's not an awful lot of dark, you know, shadow there, and then this one comes in that way. And I haven't even started to think about even putting on fingernails or anything like that, because we're still just getting the shape of these hands in place. This dark area here, which is the depth between the hand and like the fact that she's got the hand cupped. We can start to pop some of those in. And then on the edge of the hand as well, look, we've now got some dark areas on the edge of the hand. It will all start to make good sense very shortly. And this is like where the wrist goes down. So it's all quite dark under there. Okay, we'll come back to that in a little while. So having a look at the face, again, I'm just going to pop in where I can see shadows, which for me is kind of around the nose, that darker section here, which is typical of where you get, you know, that dark eye. Under the hat, it's dark, which I'd expect it to be. And then we've got something on it as well, because I can't really, there's not much colour on there, is there at all? We're just going to see. We can see how intently she's staring, and then that is a bit lighter actually, so I'm just going to leave that for a moment, and I'll come in with a mid-tone colour. You see that she's really focusing on that though. And if you want to pop in, you know, you can do the angle of the angle here. Now, obviously, if you're working faster than me, like you're on a big bit of paper, you can. It's much easier to kind of make it really, really loose and really lovely. Which needs to come through the finger. Okay, so what we need to do from here now is have a think about the other tones on this skin. So we've got things like, you know, we've got a few mid-tones on there. So when I say a few mid-tones, it's thinking this side is very different to this because we're in the shadow. Dark, cool shadows, like dark, cool colours recede, which is what we want in the shadow. It's not going to be as warm as this side, and that's exactly what's happening. We can see. So obviously the skin on the back is really kind of a warm tone. So you can go in, you know, have a little look at, try some tones out that you think are right. I mean, I think her skin is more, she's got some yellow tones in her skin. In her skin tone, maybe a bit too bright there. That might be suitable for elsewhere. Let's have a little look. So just see what you've got. It's best fit, really. Okay. But, and you can layer up, and that's a bit too yellow, but I'm just going to go in with a mid-tone with that. And I'm going to layer it up because it's too warm. But I'm just going to go in with another one over the top. That's better, but definitely yellow tone on the look at your own skin to compare, you know, to have a look as well to look at the difference. I mean, my skin I know is quite yellow toned as well, which is, you know, I'm quite fair. However, I have got quite a yellow tone as well to it, and it's really interesting when you're looking at, you know, and males do wear the foundation as well, but when I go now, they always pick out the yellow tone. Some people have got more of a pink tone or a red tone or a very, very, very warm brown tone. So it's just, you know, just depends on the scale. So we just got to keep looking to see what it is we can see. So I'm now going to go down where the chest area is, and I'm going to go in with a different brown than I've used. But it is still very much in the shadow there. Still, so I'm going to go in with a tone of brown, which that isn't the colour of the skin, but it's how the colour is reflecting here. But then I'm going to go in over the top of that with a slightly warmer, because there are just some, I don't know if you can see, key areas on here where you just get a little kind of a glimmer of a skin tone. So I'm going to work that in around it. Yeah, it's just a really small contrasting area in there. I'll leave that there. Okay, so thinking about her face as well, I think I think I get a similar sense to here. It's almost like, you know, she's under this hat. We're not getting an awful lot of light on there. I'm just going to go in with a base, just going to fix that into place. And then I am going to go in again with a slightly lighter pencil. Let's see what we've got. See if that's, it might be a bit too bright, but I'll just use it very sparingly. So we do get just a sense that her cheeks is there sticking out, and there's a little tiny bit of a lighter area on her chin, and then on her nose here. And but it's not, you know, it's not really, really obvious because she's under this very, very dark hat. So yeah, so just probably the lightest bit was enough chin here. The lips are darker. The lips are darker again. Under there, I'm not going to go in with a warm. I'm going to go in with a quite cool red in there. And just pop a sense, just a sense in there. I can't see all of it. And that might even be too dark, so too warm. So I'm just going to soften that down. So we've got some things going on in here now that help us see the gesture and the focus in there, which is nice. So yeah, so let's have a little look at what else other warm colours we have got. So again, if you look at these tones in here, there are some brown tones, but there's also some warmth. I actually use find that this is quite a nice tone, is it's like a burnt sienna-y tone, I would say. So there's a bit more warmth here. So I'm going to go in with that, and I might have to darken slightly in some areas. So with the pastel matte, I'm going in a bit, I can put plenty on there. But don't worry if you've covered a little bit of what you've done. You can always kind of come around that. But it's really warm, and I'm going to lighten this up as well. This is much darker actually than her skin, but this is quite nice for some of the darker areas that are on there on the skin, that are a bit more in the shade or whatever. So, and then where it's lighter, I'll just lighten that up, because there are a couple of tones. There are a couple of different tones in here, not just one. This is what I was saying with skin tones. Often you get several, so I'll pop that in as well. Let's see. So I also felt that it was a bit warm in places. So I've got this pinky colour. I felt I could see some pink tones in here. And whatever you think you can see, you should pop on. I'm just going to pop a little bit. It's not really light pink, it's very warm. I just felt down the middle of her arm there, and then just a little bit on here. And you never know, it might even be something reflecting a little bit. So, we've got some quite bright, some big brights there. So don't worry or be intimidated by those, because again, we've got what we were looking for is like we start to get the contrast and things on like that as well. So I'm just going to start kind of pop some more colours into here, you can see. And then I'll start to weave in some, if there's any real lights, I'll start to weave that in. But I am just going to soften this edge down here. It is a bit lighter on this back of her arm, as we've said, where the light is coming from. I'm going to make it much lighter actually in a bit. But it's good to get some kind of a base colour on there. And just pop on what you can see. And we will stop shortly when I've just done this arm, just to have a little look at how everything's getting on with it. There we go. So there's obviously a little bit more dark under her arm here. I want to capture that. So I'm going to bring this up a little bit. It's not quite as dark as the really, really dark shadows underneath, but I'm not being able to create it with the colours I've got. So I'm going to bring in a little bit more the darker tone here, where it's really, really got her arm in the shade now. A little bit on top there as well. A little bit here. Down this side, because this, when you've got all of these elements in place, all these different tones, really starts to bring your picture to life, because it starts to show, all the different colours and things in there. And you can be really bold with when you're doing figurative work, really bold. You go with greens and purples and all sorts of things. So let's have a little look. Let's have a little look at this here. Okay, so I've got to a point down to here. I'm now going to just lighten up with a highlight. So depends which one you go in. I'm going to go in with quite a peachy one here, just on the top where it's covering there. And you can kind of soften it down. But again, these top layers, we don't want to be doing too much blending, otherwise we'll end up with this muddy mess. So just adding these on top. Down the back of her arm, it's lighter. So I'm going to go in just nice and gently there until I get down to her elbow, which has really got the capturing that light there, isn't it? And then again, we've got some patches on here that are capturing the light really nicely, especially where we've got her, her bones bone here as well. Quite enjoyable, isn't it, to get some of these in? And then there's another little touch up here. I don't know if you can see that as well, but I'm just popping that in, and I might use my blending stick because this is so tiny, this piece of paper. There we go. So yeah, so it's coming on nicely now. We're really starting to think about those tones. I think the biggest difference, I'll come and do the hands afterwards, but I think, you know, the difference between this and this, for example, is it's kind of a lot darker, I would say. So I'm actually going to go in as my mid-tone with this brown that I've used. It's not the really dark brown, it's a cooler brown actually. It's not much warmth to it at all. We'll talk about these cool browns. All these cool browns around here until I'm happy that I've got you know, so yeah, so now it's looking very different. So we still need to bring a few bit of warmth through. So if you find the tone of pastel, you might want to pop some, like, rather than it being really warm, you might want to pop some kind of taupey colours on, or whatever colours you think will go on there. It's slightly more, you know, slightly lighter, but we've definitely got a sense that one arm is in, you know, the shade more than the other. There's a bit of warmth coming under here. So I think I'm going to go in with this one underneath here. Lovely. Maybe just warm that slightly up. Yeah, just in a little bit here. There's a shape. And then I'm going to go for this highlight here. So probably, when I'm looking, it's probably a little bit, try that one. It's not as warm as the peachy one that I've just used over this side, but it should give us this nice highlight that we can see so much on the arm. And I'm just going to pop that. There we go. Again, we've got another lovely highlight here. And then we've just got, you know, if you feel like you need to pop a little bit more warmth or whatever, pop that through, or even dark to some extent, because this here feels like it's just a bit, you know, it's kind of just slightly darker in places there. And you may even want to, like, and what I really want to do is darken up this area here between. So just pop that, you know, pop that back in. And again, when we put the hair over, it'll make a little bit more sense as well. So make that just, there we go. Right, so I'm just going to take a pause because we've got quite a lot to think about there already and see how you're getting on. Okay, so I mean, obviously there is a difference between the warmth in the skin here and in here, but if you're not absolutely sure, that's fine. Just leave it. Well, and then we'll, you know, when you come back to it, we'll have a look. So I'm going to have a little go at doing the hands now, really, just to show you that there's nothing to be really frightened of because it's exactly the same as we've just done. So I'm going to start up here first, and we'll have a little look. You know, we've filled in some of these darker areas because again, we're just trying to get a suggestion of the holding. So you don't see great detail, do you, in all of the paintings and things where you've got like a lot of the figurative work where you've got figures here doing things. So we just need enough to suggest that we've got the hand and it's what we're doing a picture here. And really we're just filling in the gaps now. So we've got kind of a warmer colour here. Try this yellowy. I'm going to go for yellowy actually, 'cause I think it is. So I'm just popping this in. So we've got some warmth coming through on the palm here and there. Might not even be. That might not be warm enough, but we'll see. I might just pop a little bit more just here. A bit of warmth coming through. There we go. That's a bit better. Better. And then, the thumb as well. We need the thumb over here. Right. And then the tip of the thumb, we've got a really like a much lighter bit. So I'm just going to pop that up here, just so it catches the light there. And then on here, again, we've got, like, if you've got the shadows between them, which we tried to do, didn't we, earlier on? We've got enough of the shadow going on. And there'll be less of the thing to do on here. So then we're just like looking at what kind of a colour warmth it is there. And I'm going to go with this quite similar to what I've done there. I haven't got fingernails or anything on yet. And then again here with the finger here, but again, I'm going slightly more yellow on that because that's what it feels like to me. And again, I haven't put any like nails or anything on there. And then the next one along, it's kind of getting a little bit more pinky. That's what I feel I can see. So I'm just going to try and use the edge of my pastels, and I am working this tiny space. And then at the end, we just see a little bit of the top. So I'm not getting masses and masses of the features and things in there, but I'm getting enough so that we know what's going on. And then obviously there's a little the nails, fingernails. So again, how much are you putting in? Well, we want enough of the information to know that it's a fingernail. That one's probably a bit brighter, so I'll just try and get kind of fingernailish shape on there. This one's kind of going around the side here. And this one, they kind of go inwards, don't they? So again here, we've got just little bits of information without like having tons and tons in. And again, if you want to kind of, get a little more of a sense that you can kind of pop a little bit of shape in there. And if not, that's fine. We just getting a sense that we're holding these in here. I might just try and find an actual white that's a bit brighter. Put that for its top one here. On the top of this finger here. And then when we've got, you see, so that's there. When we've got, I just need to make that a bit darker in here because sometimes we end up getting rid of the shadow, and the shadow does create the shape of the finger and everything as well. So we'll put that in, pop a bit more of that shape of that finger back in there. There. The shadow here. And then once we've got the brush, whatever it is, see if it's blue or whatever colour. It wants to be threaded under that finger. And I'm going to pop a little bit of black out near an end on it so we'll see it's a brush. Okay, and then so we've just got some colours and tones in there, haven't we? Really, is what we've got. So the inside of that hand there as well. And then the same down here. So we're just looking at a series of kind of like shapes and things because we don't really focus like massively on those on the fingers, but what we're focusing on is the whole composition and seeing how it all fits together. So this one I just need to get a little bit of a sense of the finger there. Right, so down here, again, I'm just looking at a series of tones. I'm going in lighter because a lot of the hand here is lighter. I can fill in any gaps between. So I'm just looking at where they come with, the hands and everything here. If I need to add any dark colours, I will. I'm just getting a kind of a base there, just fix in. And then obviously between there are some darker areas on here as well. Warmer on the inside there, so just putting these on here. Here, halfway up the fingers, or where we get to like where the light shines on the knuckle. Might be even darker actually. I'm going with a pencil there, so I'm getting more shadow in here. You can't really see, like you can see obviously you can see the knuckles here. We're just popping in, some of the colours and things we can see in the shapes on the hand. And then your highlights, have a little look on the hand. Are there any highlights? Well, yeah, kind of here. So we're just kind of popping those bits in. Again, if you've got any darker areas, put those in. And then again, popping in a bit of a nail. You can see them. And you don't have to make these really precise either. It can just be a scent. Can't even see that one. Got one that particularly glimmers a little bit, make that a bit brighter. There we go. So we just, it really is just we've got getting this sense of this of grasping this, which is quite important, isn't it? And then on the knuckle again, it's brighter as we go down the finger here. That bit inside catches the light, so we can start to see where it captures anything else that's out here. Right, so that's as far as I'm going with that, to be fair. I might just soften down this inside actually. So it's a bit harsh with that shadow on it. This side. And then we've just got the glass here. So we can, focus on the colours on the glass. Well, it's not glass, it's a jar. It's our artist jar that she's got using. And then, if you want to pop some of those colours on in the jar, you can do that. I'll go for which one go for. I think it's some of her hat is actually reflected in this colour of this jar, or it could be the paint. We're not sure, are we, at this point? But yeah, I'm just going to get a few colours on there. And then we can just really now kind of come into looking at the other elements because we're obviously trying to get our skin tones and everything and where the light comes, but now we can focus on the rest of it. So this lovely hat here, again, we can look at different tones. I actually am going to put her hair in. Having said that, and it is very dark, kind of quite silhouette-y, isn't it? So I am actually going to represent it in my own way because remember, this is our representation. It's very important to remember we're representing it in our own way, not trying to recreate a photo here. So I am going to make the hair really quite curly. And it is quite silhouette, it's quite a block, isn't it? Look at that. It's really quite dark because we've not got much right across here, as well across here. Quite nice when you get the hair in because it does kind of give a sense of what you've been doing. I'm going to move over to a pencil now because I can't get into that little tiny spot. And actually, when you look, there's not much gap between here, so I am going to close that. The hair is really thick, isn't it? It's beautiful. You can just kind of create some of the texture by, you know, the little bits at the end where they get the gap through there. And then it's gone under the hat as well. So I've got it coming down, it's spilling what over here, and a little bit over our shoulder there. And we can use the edge of the hair to create the hat as well. There we go. Okay. That's nice and interesting and fun. So probably a little bit more over her face here. As far as a little bit more. And then we can go in with a nice green. So we've got these, you know, you can go in a few tones of green if you want. So try them out, see what you've got. And the beauty of this pastel, isn't it, that working in pastel that you end up using colours you wouldn't normally. So, you know, you can use what you've got, as it were. So I'm just looking at what tone I'm going to go in with to start with. I'm going to go in with this one. I want a really dark green as well, if I can find one. I want a contrast, so I want a nice contrast, so lighter one. So we want a few different tones. We've got, so it is, again, it's quite shadowy. So we don't often do really shadowy ones. A little bit. I'm going to go in with this one. It's just a bit more interesting. So I am actually going to go in with the similar tone on here. Make sure I get the nice curve of that. And then I'm going to go over here with a darker, slightly darker tone where there's a shadow. Like that. these darker areas here. I've just got to like, kind of work out where they are. It's underneath, isn't it? So it's really big hole underneath. It's quite enjoyable actually having a go at doing lovely. And what I like about all of these artists' photographs is that everybody comes as themselves, as we all do as artists. We are all unique, and most artists, like all of you doing this right now, enjoy going as yourself, which is really important, isn't it, in life? Not feeling that we have to fit into anything at all. So we need a contrast there. So decide on a colour. So where it's a bit lighter, you might want to kind of pop some shading into there. This isn't the very lightest I'm going. This is just kind of just so that it's not all one tone. So I'm just starting to shade some of the bits that look a little bit lighter, although we haven't got masses on here. There are a few. Look at the top here. At the back. So I'm just starting to try and create a bit of shade in there to show that we've got some different things going on, but then I'll go in nice, really light with some other colours. I also want to go in with a bit of a dark colour as well in there, which is to show that depth. So I'm going to go in with this really dark one. We do get some quite deep shadow in here as well. So let's have a go at that. Underneath this very this hat. And around about. Creating real interest, aren't we, with it? So then it's like looking at what colour do you want to pop in? The what colour do you want to pop in as the real bright one? Just thinking about that as well. See. So do you want to go white, or is that too bright, or do you want to go really kind of, I'm going to go bright green actually, real bright green contrast here. This is what I said, you can really be quite bold. I'll do the same on the top. We get this catching the light on the back of the felt on this hat, don't we? It's super. Where else do we get it? It's a little bit hazy there. Now I'll recreate what I can see. It's almost a bit, try to work out where this hat's like a bit felty, like almost a bit of felt. So it's picking up the light in certain bits, isn't it? Certainly over here, the top. Go. I'm going to leave that there really, just so we get this kind of like the highlight, the light hitting on the hat, which is really nice. And then we've just got a little bit of, the dress and everything to do here. This is quite interesting. So you can go in and try and recreate the lines, and it's kind of a stripy top, isn't it? I'm just going to go in, if I'm honest, to start with just a pinky base. I'm going to put all of it in pink, including the bow, and then I'm going to add some other interest afterwards. top coming up there. There's a tiny bit of a sleeve as well, just kind of poking out. So perhaps should have put that on before, but I forgot about it till now. Here. And again, I'm going to kind of just pull a little bit of a hair over the top of that. And then we'll go here because I'm going to lighten up. We can pop the shade on. So what we're going to be doing is observing all these lovely folds as well. The lightness and the darks and all of those kind of things in there. Okay, so with this, we want to be thinking again, really about the folds, the colours of the folds that you want. I'm going to go in actually with a bit of a greyish colour here. That feels right, or you could even go in with a green colour if you wanted to. But I'm just going to go where I can see where it's casting a shadow. Look, you get these folds. Sometimes on the light colours, it does reflect as a bit of greyish. If there's anything else that's got the fold here. Dark area underneath there. Look at this fold. So I don't want to put too many in because I want to make it really, really dark, but I want to get enough in that we can see where there are specifically folds. So we do need to work out what's actually going on, don't we? This one here. There we go. Okay, so I want some lighter areas. Well, I mean, you can go through it. You can pop, because you want to get a stripe, you can actually pop the stripes on and just follow the directions of them if you want to do that. You can actually create a the stripy that you can see on there, even over the the bits that are shadows, and just copy the way that the lines go, or you can just put a little bit of a suggestion of one. This is going to move downwards on this side. You know, they're moving in all directions. That's the thing, aren't they? So there, yeah, that's probably as much as I would pop on there. But then obviously we need the lighter areas, so we need to think about where the highlights are now as well. So what have I got on here that might be nice bright? I did have a really bright pink one somewhere. With that. Yes. So I'm just going to go over and where the highlights are, put those in now, where you get where the light's shining on it basically. You could use a bright colour if you wanted to, and again down the back here, getting quite a bright colour down there, aren't we? And there, so we're just picking up on the top of the fabric. So we're just picking out really some of these bits there in the light, because that's a nice thing, is to really like pick out on where the light falls on there. And a very small amount here. There we go. So, it's capturing that light. And it may be that you want to darken a few little bits off as well. Have you got all your shady ones? Well, I know for a fact I can see under here that some of these are a bit dark. I could do with just making that a little bit, some of the depth of those folds in the fabric, for example, or under here. There's just a few you might want to just pop those back in. We're keeping this nice and loose, really, aren't we? Even though we're popping some of this detail in. Okay, so then just got this bit of the skirt to do here. So far, what we need to be looking at is like, have we really captured the essence of our artist in full flow, really absorbed in what they're doing? Can we tell that they're an artist? Can we tell what they're doing? And then the answer is yes, you've captured that, So I'm just going to look at the skirt here as a slightly different tone of green. So I'm going to go in with that. You can change any of the colours as well if you don't like the colours. That's absolutely fine. So it's a bit darker in here. Here's quite a lot of darker creases in here. And pop those in. Just really nice, nice little elements, isn't it, to the skirt and everything that she's got on there. And again, you may want to pop a little bit of shadow in there between those creases. You've not quite got the right colour, you can just create those blocks of colour. Quite dark. But we can tell again, just from popping some of the things on the skirt, which is poised and it is pulling a little bit, isn't it? Because she's kind of stretching to see her work. And then, I do want to try and get in some of this, slightly lighter coloured waistband now. It depends what colour you go for, green or a taupey. I'm going to try a taupey one to start with to try and get some of this lighting, just so that it's not really, I won't say it's really white. So we're getting the highlights in now. I'm going to put this waistband in as well. Okay, just come through. A little bit here as well. Just give it a light bit here. But we can get a sense, can't we, that it's lighter here. And then if you do want to go even lighter, then by all means, where it's really kind of picking up the light, then oops, baby, then pop that in. It does really help to see that it's this light is kind of really shining down. But at least we can build it up, step by step. And then again, if you want to pop anything back in, let's put a dark green pencil, unfortunately. If you want to put anything back in again, any shadows. We can do that. There we go. So it's really, really now focused on what's, what is happening around. And then, if you want him to really kind of pop any of that background, that wall in here. I'm not going to put much over here because actually I think it will just distract from this. I really want to get the focus of this, of what she's doing. It's like she's really, really enthralled in that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some of this darker wall in at the back here. We're going to start with the lighter colour and build it. Shall comes down below a hat here, so it's I bet you'll have to do a full shade and just make that a little bit more textured behind if you want to. I'm not sure on how much to pop in, because it's all quite arty anyway, isn't it, over this side? But we're going to pop this area in. But then we've got all this wall with all this lovely, I'm going to use some of the light background to come through. So I'm just going to pick out like some darks and some lights. So I'm going to try and find some colours, darks and blues. Like that one. So I'm just going to really, so we get a sense of its artwork. I'm going to wiggle it a little bit because it's a bit not modern, contemporary, I'd say. A little bit more, not over here. And I'm just weaving some of these lovely colours in between here. We're just creating, aren't we? The fact that it's this painting that she's doing, and then you can just weave in any colours really that you want to in there. Make it quite creative. We get the gist of it. She's painting something on there. I'm going to pop in some nice dark ones because that'll kind of balance out with the hair. And again, we can just use any kind of strokes that you want, really. Try and replicate this. Yeah. And then, this is the bottom of this. So, again, down here, you can pop in what you want to do or what you don't want to do with it. It looks quite sunny, doesn't it, actually? It's almost like she's outside doing that. So I might just put a bit of some kind of sun colour here. Not an awful lot of too much detail down there, really. Otherwise, it really distract from what we've got, which is really lovely. I think that's probably, I would say, about it. I mean, if you want to do something down this side, That's fine. It's quite busy. Some people don't like blank spaces. You could put another lady in one, but I think I'm quite happy just to stop there for now. Really want to capture this artist focusing in, and that's what it's all about. Is like, you know, capturing a moment, and that's very special. That connection, for all of you as well. So I hope you've been able to feel that it's given you enough to be able to capture the essence and this kind of like lovely, like continuous line and tone, and that we get that connection of the artist. And that will be my final pause. So I hope you get on really well and you enjoy doing yours too.